Okay, hello everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Masumi 2025 recap live stream. I'm here today with Sebastian. Hello, Sebastian. How are you today?
Hello, hello. My honest answer is tired, but I'm good.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm also tired, but now it's finally time for some holidays and some peaceful
Yeah.
time. So yeah, so we thought it would be a very good idea to just make this live stream and talk a little bit about the year and what we've been doing. And there's not that much of an agenda planned. We're just going to go through it a little bit and talk about whatever thoughts come into our head, also about what we have planned for next year, because obviously this is just the beginning. And yeah, maybe let's begin by asking you a question, Sebastian. So we met a little bit over a year ago, I think 1 year and maybe 3 months or something like that.
Mm.
And since then, a lot has happened. So, do you want to take me back to last year, December? What have we done around this time last year?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it has been a crazy ride. I think this is probably, I also obviously thought about this before we started the live stream. What happened this year? And I was like, Jesus, this all happened within
Mm,
1 year. That is really crazy. Yeah, and I think in December last year, probably we had the visit from the Cardano Foundation and the Service Plan Office, right? So we signed our official partnership, had a really great meeting with them. We learned that we got funded by Catalyst in December. And I think everything was already in progress. So we have been all working, and especially you and the team from MMaker like crazy, because we already had the goal to launch right after Christmas and New Year the Masumi protocol at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And this was already basically the first milestone we all have been working towards.
yeah, and it was really like a sprint of 3 months or so.
Yeah,
Like we at the beginning we set out to do this in 3 months, launch the first version of Masumi, do all this stuff, and then we really decided, I think, in December to do it longer term as well, and build a real like project out of this and really make it successful and do this partnership, bring the Cardano Foundation on board in the Masumi office. I have this very funny image here of
yeah,
one of the articles. I had to show it again. It's so funny, like blockchain meets AI service plan group partners with Cardano, and then there's this AI generated image of basically free Charles, which is still to this day one of my favorite pictures. But yeah, I mean, obviously since then a lot has happened, and we can talk about that in a second. But maybe I want to go back to this core concept that we really built Masumi around, right? Which is this service as a software concept. I know, Sebastian, you've probably explained this, I don't know, 500 times this year, probably more. But do you want to do it one more last time this in this live stream?
yeah, for sure. I mean, the key idea is quite simple, right? That we are now at a point in the development of AI where AI agents are truly capable to deliver services. And this has been made possible because through the model improvements, through all this insights into how agentic workflows actually function, through all the developments in the framework space. So everything which Crew AI, Langchain, and everyone else has been pushing forward to. And now the basically the entire global service industry is asking themselves the questions: okay, how many services we have been traditionally been um, providing with humans can now be delivered by agents. And obviously, the assumption is that the amount of services which can be done by agents and therefore can be done by software is extremely high, and therefore this is an extremely big market, right? It's, I mean, Sequoia Capital at one point in time, I think a year ago, estimated that it's a $10 trillion market in essence, which is now up for grabs to be discovered or conquered by AI agents. And that is a really big industry. And obviously, as soon as this happens, you are introducing suddenly new problems, because if you have all these agents who are delivering now services, how do they find them? How do they collaborate? How do they get paid? How do they hold each other accountable for what they do? And this entire thing, which we have been envisioning now already 1.5 years ago. And I think we have been extremely early to think about this in the depths we are thinking about this. And I still feel that we are still early in everything we do. I still think that sometimes we are still anticipating 6 to 12 months out in terms of the problems we are solving. But I think that in these days, it's a good place to be a couple of months out of the rest of the gang, as everything is developing so quickly, obviously.
True. And I mean, we've been talking about billions of agents working together and paying each other and interacting with each other for such a long time now. And at the beginning, there was like the question was, okay, is that actually going to happen? Is that actually the future? And I think now we're at the point where that's not really the question anymore. I think everyone has accepted that to be the future and is building towards it. So that's really, I think it's a testament to how ahead of the time we were when we started this whole process.
Yeah, and I'm always telling the story that at the very day in Davos, when we announced Masumi, you have to realize that there was no Google agent-to-agent protocol at this point in time. There was no Stripe agent toolkit, MasterCard, Visa card. No one had announced anything yet.
Yeah.
The only thing which was already in existence, but still under the radar, is the now very popular Model Context Protocol by Anthropic. But even back then, the adoption was really low back then. So we were essentially the first who really announced on a big stage something that into the direction of agent to agent, which is still mind-boggling for me that it happens this way. But
yeah. And that event in Davos was really interesting. I tried to find a picture, but I didn't have one handy. But it was really the first time, I think, that we presented Masumi to the outside world. And the reactions were quite interesting because everyone was completely they were quite shocked at the boldness of the vision, I would say. But everyone was extremely interested in it. And obviously this topic, AI and agents and so on, was already super large back then. And we were walking around and we were seeing all these like different companies going into it, Salesforce doing AI, and like every company in the world doing AI basically, which is still the case today, of course. And but I think they were not yet ready for this idea of agents from different companies talking to agents from other companies and how they can interact with each other. And that's now what's happening. And I think, as you said, we were very early and we built this Masumi node and the Masumi network to enable exactly that. Like I like this graphic that we have on the screen right now because it shows really nicely how the agentic services or the agents on the left are basically using the Masumi network, which is then connected to the Cardano blockchain. So we are bringing a lot of buzzwords here together. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that most technical people or non-technical people don't really know, like proof of stake, EUTXO, and so on. But we're really solving these three key issues with the Masumi network that are in the middle, like identity, accountability, and transactions between agents. And and we had a lot of events. I have tons of pictures here of different events. Like this was the AI Agent Week by Crew AI that we hosted. And we presented here at the Cashflow conference, and we had so many different random events where Paris Blockchain Week, we hosted hackathons, but where we basically just explained this concept and tried to get people to play with Masumi and work on Masumi and actually deploy their agents. So it was really like, I think we've done a good job last year of actually being in touch with the users of Masumi and also the developers that can build the agents and put them on Masumi, and we really always aim to have that kind of feedback loop and talk with the people and understand, okay, where is their mindset right now? Are they even thinking about this kind of stuff right yet? or are they still in the like, okay, we're trying out ChatGPT kind of bubble, which many are, to be honest. But yeah, this has really changed, I would say, in the last few months. I think now many more people are using agents on a day-to-day basis than they were before. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was also a learning curve for us, right? I think
Yeah.
when you look back at the first hackathons, we were a little bit too early with our ideas because people were still figuring out how to build agents in the first place. Maybe being a little bit overwhelmed with the idea of that agents now can work together across borders. But yeah, for sure. I think, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we have been around the globe with Masumi, really from San Francisco to India to Japan to Africa. We had a whole series of hackathons in Africa, right? So many events in Europe. So we had this lovely um, Australia meeting, which what's his name again? Sam
Yeah.
organized. Yeah. So I mean, we had global coverage with Masumi-driven events this year for sure.
Yeah, it was crazy. We even had one that we presented at a Google event at DevFest in Nigeria and one in India. And like
Yeah.
I don't even know. I think we were present at least 40 different events, 40 to 50 different events. So really incredible. But let's jump a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit more about the practicalities and about the actual products, right? So we have three different products. One of them being Masumi, obviously, and then the other ones is Sokusumi and Kodozumi. And what I want to do is, Sebastian, I want you to give us a very short pitch of what each of those products basically are. And then we're going to take a look at them, specifically also more at Sokusumi and what the current status is with Sokusumi. And then we're going to talk about just the future that we envision for both Masumi and Sokusumi and all the products. So yeah, let's begin with Kodozumi, because I think Kodozumi is not getting enough love from us lately. So,
Yeah, sure. I mean, Kodozumi was basically born out of a necessity, right? So because when we started to build agents and when we thought about, okay, we need to deploy them and we need to scale them, and we were thinking about, okay, how do you solve the problem that when they are part of a permissionless network like Masumi, how this is all scaling and working, and we really figured out quickly that or the frameworks to build agents were not solving this problem. I mean, this situation has changed this year, but back then no one was really solving it. And now Kodozumi is really just a runtime environment, if you want. So we are really have been building this on top of the very popular and also open source Ray cluster technology. So Ray is a kind of clustering technology, which is Python native, which is used by many companies, including the typical suspects like OpenAI and Shopify and Spotify and all of these kind of players. They're using this for all the different kinds of machine learning workloads, also especially for language models. So you can do your training of language models, you can do your fine-tuning of language models, you can do your inference of language models all on Ray clusters. And Kodozumi is really just, if you want, so a wrapper around Ray, which makes it much easier for a developer to deploy agents at scale and test them and debug them. And it's probably the most used product from my end, because we are working with Kodozumi every single day in order to build and deploy and scale agents.
Yeah, I mean, same. All of our agents are basically running on Kodozumi right now, and it's really a cool environment because you can just build an agent, you put it in Kodozumi, and it works. It scales up, and we built an integration into Masumi, so every agent that's running on Kodozumi can basically directly be deployed on Masumi as well. So it's a really nice tool, and I mean, it's one of those things. There's no revenue component to it. There's nothing business-wise to it. It's just something we launched because we needed it ourselves, and it's open source. Anyone can use it. I know that Talos, or Agent T, how it's called now, on Cardano, is also using Kuduzumi nowadays, which is very cool to see. And we hope that many more projects are going to use it in the long run.
And it has been so far our most successful product hunt launch. I think on the day where we launched it was in the top 5 or so.
That's true. Yeah, maybe we should put the product hunt logo somewhere here.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's jump to the next product, Masumi, of course. So, what is Masumi?
So Masumi is a protocol, right? It's basically enabling now agents to find each other, to pay each other, to collaborate, to verify the identity of another agent, and to hold each other accountable for what they're doing. And obviously, when you hear the word protocol, that is always, for most people, really abstract. Like, okay, what is a protocol? What is this really? We call it the Masumi network because it is basically a network, or it's building a network of agents who can securely work together, who have a kind of trust layer among them. It's all built on top of the Cardano blockchain. And again, it's more developer facing because the benefit for the developer is that you can install the Masumi node, and then you get a really lovely admin interface where you can manage all your agents who are participating in the network. So it's really easy to register an agent, to set a price for the agent and for the services the agent is providing. You can track all these transactions they are doing. You can manage the wallets the agents get. You have some small on-ramp, off-ramp features within Masumi, and we just recently even added invoicing for agents. So basically, an agent can set now another agent a tax-compliant invoice, which
Amazing.
is amazing that this is working.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Masumi is the technology, the technology underlying this whole network, right? And most people never really interact with Masumi, even though that is the brand. Most people, if they just want to use agents and want to hire agents and interact with agents, then they would basically be using Masumi without even knowing that they're using Masumi. So for us, it's our abstraction layer on top of Cardano, essentially, and it's the way that agent developers can come in and they can build their own agents and deploy them on Masumi and monetize them from Masumi, and basically solve all these issues that Sebastian just mentioned. And then coming to the user interface, or actually before we come to the user interface, let's do one thing. I want to show the Masumi interface because I think most people never even see this, right?
Yeah.
So this is our Masumi admin interface. So yeah, please go ahead, say a few words.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you go through it.
Okay, I can go through it too. So this is our currently running on preprods on a test network. Our admin interface for Masumi. And the idea is really, if you are an agent developer and you want to monetize your agent, then what you would do is you would install this on your server and you would connect your agent to this. So this admin interface also exposes a very powerful API, which we can see if we type in docs. And by simply using this API and integrating it into your agent workflow, you can say, okay, the agent only works if it's getting paid, right? And then using this Masumi interface, you can register your agents on Masumi. So as you can see here, I have a lot of test agents that are registered. These are all like automated tests, but we have like a lot of really great test agents registered. And once they are registered, they are basically available in the Masumi network. Anyone can find them and anyone can interact with them and hire them as well. And by anyone, I mean both humans as well as other agents. So if an agent just looks up another agent that it could need, it could say, okay, there's like an agent that I want, so let's just hire that agent, interact with that agent, and get some data back from that agent. And we've built this admin interface to basically hide this whole complexity that is behind it, because there's a lot of complexity. It's using smart contracts on Cardano, it's minting tokens, it's sending money in stable coins from wallets to other wallets. Every agent is basically registered with a certain wallet, but there's even multiple here, because there's like some wallets that only do the interactions, other wallets which the money is going to, and so on. So a lot of difficult things. And we essentially said, okay, we need to make this as easy as possible for regular developers, for regular people who want to simply build an agent and put it on chain. And those agents and those developers just install this and then basically interact with it. So, we have this nice overview here with all the transactions that are happening. We have an overview over the refunds that have happened, and so on. So it's really, I would say, a pretty, at least for developers, intuitive way to handle agents. And you could almost call it like Stripe for AI, I would say. Yeah.
So maybe this is a good point in time, just spontaneously, to point out the difference of what you get from using Masumi compared to just using X402.
Yes.
Because X402 is basically probably one of the biggest surprises of the year, right? Had a gigantic start. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone is crazy about it. And I think it's really good to understand the differences.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So what X402 is it's basically a payment protocol that was introduced by Coinbase earlier this year. And Coinbase basically said, okay, we believe that in the future there's going to be a lot more micropayments happening for everything. And we want to facilitate those micropayments using stablecoins, right? Which is a very smart idea and very similar to what Masumi is also thinking. We also believe micropayments are the future, and we believe stablecoins are the future. And what X42 basically does is it says if you visit a website, and this could be any website, it could also be an API, and it could also be another agent that you give a job to, it will return you an amount that you have to pay. And then it will basically say, okay, please pay me 20 cents or something. And then only after you've paid me this will you get access to the website, or the agent will do a job for you. And what's currently happening is that X42 is really becoming a good standard for API providers to sell their API not on a subscription basis, but more on like a per request kind of basis. And it's also getting integrated a lot into different agents on different chains. But what Masumi is doing is another step, essentially. It's basically what X42 is, just with bells and bells and whistles, right? So the easiest or one of the things that we are doing on top of X42 is we are basically giving you a whole refund mechanism, because we say, okay, if you hire an agent, and maybe you hire not only one agent, but you hire many agents, you need to know that the work that is being done is of a high quality. And if it's not of the quality that you expect, you need to be able to get your money back. Because what if the agent is offline, right? What if the agent, I don't know, has some API issue and is just returning an error? How are you going to get your money back? And what if you buy an agent and it costs you $10 or $20 or even more, and it's not necessarily a micropayment anymore? Then you need to somehow be able to resolve that. So what we've built is a whole complex smart contract which handles this refund mechanism and this whole dispute mechanism that you have in refunds. And we have put this into the Masumi network, and we are integrating this with X42. So we are basically using the X42 standard because it's just a standard that we can use as well, and the whole industry is moving towards it. But we are basically giving people that use Masumi a way of using the standard in the best way possible. Because if you just use the standard today on Base or on Solana or whatever it is, you just send money from A to B. There's no refund mechanism. There's no identity mechanism. There's no dispute mechanism. All this kind of stuff that Masumi has built in. But if you do it on Cardano with Masumi, then you have all that, and that's really our approach, I would say.
And also, there's also no discoverability, right?
Yes, no discoverability, exactly. I mean, that's exactly like we have these four things that we are solving with Masumi, right? The monetization, but then the identities, so which is part of the discoverability, that you can find other agents and you can verify that this agent is actually from the company that it says it's from. And we have this decision logging part. So basically every transaction that you do with the Masumi network also includes a hash of the input and the output of the agent, so that you have a very clear like trail of the decisions that different agents are doing. And this is really important, because if you have 100 agents working together to solve a complex problem, and then one agent messes up, and then you have like some issue and you can't go into your hotel because it hasn't been booked or something like that, then you need to know where it broke, and you need to be able to verify exactly like what agent made the problem, and you need to be able to know essentially where to go to get your money back. So yes, that's what we've been building.
Correct. And now our way to integrate is basically to become a facilitator for X402, right? So it's still the case, you hit an endpoint, the endpoint returns 402, says here payment required, and then Masumi can be a facilitator for this payment, and then you get all the benefits from the Masumi network and from the smart contracts and from the accountability and all of this. But the whole process is simply initiated through the X402 standard. Is this correct?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we are integrating the X402 standard. So we are extending the standard. Basically, we have an open pull request in the X402 GitHub repository, together with the Cardano Foundation, who have been helping us there a lot. And we are now working to get our standard integrated, so you can just use Cardano as any, or not Cardano, Masumi specifically, like any other X402 chain. And yeah, and then you just, if you use it, you just have the best X402 standard, because we have all these additional features essentially. Yeah. Yes, and now I've seen a few questions here about what are examples of different agents for actual consumers? What does it actually look like? Because everything that we talked about just now is very technical, right? Kodozumi is technical. Masumi itself is very technical. So now let's go a little bit over to the end customer kind of platform, which is Sokusumi. So yes, Sebastian, what is Sokusumi?
So first of all, I mean, this is a look back, right? Sokusumi, we haven't planned to build Sokusumi in the beginning, we have to admit, right? we started to build Kodozumi, we started to build Masumi, then we launched it, and then we were like, okay, how to use this now? Like, this was really, we really came from the problem and solved the problem bottom up, to be honest. And then we realized, okay, it would be nice to have maybe some kind of reference implementation, if you want, so of how to actually use now the protocol and hire an agent. And I saw the very first question was about a retail consumer example. The thing is that everything we do right now, and also the focus area, is not consumer. It is business to business, to be honest, right? Yeah. And also Sokusumi is now a business to business marketplace. And we have chosen to do so because our focus is right now on services as a software, right? This is a business to business topic where payment is involved, where people want to hire something. So probably your contact with Sokusumi would only be for work purposes, right? Yeah. And it is now, so we started to think of Sokusumi as a marketplace, so a place where you can simply buy agents. But I think we will talk a little bit today about how this is pivoting right now and how we learned over the last 12 months or the last 6 months that probably marketplace is not the right thing of how we think of Sokusumi. And in essence, from what you see here right now is, yes, you see here all these different agents. The agents do jobs which normally people have been done in the past. The agents have a value which is defined by the data they have access to. It's defined by the domain knowledge which the agents have to do a certain job. It's defined by some of them are delivering high quality outputs like PowerPoint presentations. And we have decided right from the beginning for our business to business use case that as you can see here right now, that this whole UI is working like Outlook or like Google Mail. It's more like an email client where you have on the left-hand side all your agents. Every agent has an inbox, like here the Ask Crowd agent. In the inbox, you have all your jobs you delegated to an agent. And then the biggest part is for the result. And hiring an agent is as easy as writing an email. You just click in the top right corner on creating a new job. And depending on what kind of input the agent wants, it can be just an open prompt and you can just enter anything, or the agent developer can ask for more structured input. Like in this case, I asked the crowd agent, which is doing market research at scale with an AI-driven synthetic data approach, and you just fill out your question and you are defining your target audience, and then this thing is running.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I think you summarized it very well. It started as a reference implementation for Masumi, and it became a marketplace for different agents. And I think now we are going the next step, and we're really moving it just like away from just a marketplace and more towards a whole productivity tool. The best way to interact with different agents in the world, essentially, because our approach is very different from, I would say, all these like chat-based interfaces. Most people just interact with ChatGPT. They have a question, they ask it in ChatGPT, right? But our whole approach from the beginning was to say, okay, we have these agents that can do a lot autonomously on their own, and sometimes they run for a very long time, right? So some of the agents run for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and so on. And this is really the trend that the whole industry is moving towards as well. If you look at Claude Code, for example, Claude Code, if you give it a difficult prompt, is going to run for like 5, 10, sometimes 20 or 30 minutes, sometimes even longer. And it's going to do a lot of things in the background. And it's hiring sub-agents, and it's planning, and it's doing to-do lists, and it's doing all these kinds of things. So interactions with agents are not as instant anymore as we are used to from ChatGPT. And because of that, we have built everything like we have built it here, where it's basically an inbox style kind of interface, right? So we have these inboxes, we have all the different tasks, we can look at them, and we have, for example, here like this really long output from the extended audience agent, who's hiring multiple sub-agents and stuff like that. And now we are planning to essentially extend this whole concept and make it easier to give, I would say, generalized briefings to different agents. So it's a bit hard to explain. So maybe I think where we can start is we can start a little bit with the concept of opinionated agents and agentic coworkers, and what the difference is between them and these more job-based, task-based kind of agents that we have right now. So Sebastian, what is your take on that?
Yeah, sure. So these agentic services, they solve one task, right? So get me audience insights, analyze this YouTube channel, figure out what is happening on Twitter right now, whatever it might be. And nevertheless, what we came to think about now is that you want to have an agentic coworker, which is really chat-based or has many different kinds of channels he can talk to you, and who is really supporting you in your day-to-day work and is using all these agentic services to get stuff done for you. So obviously we talk to many users of our platform, and we have lots of feedback also internally from Service Plan, where people try to use this. And the stunning thing is that already with the amount of agents we have, people are overwhelmed to make the decision of which agent is now the right agent for my job, and which agent can help me with the problem I have right now. And the idea is now that we want to have this opinionated agents, which have one of their core capabilities is to be able to orchestrate. So they can just talk to the person, understand what the person wants to achieve, and then help them to achieve their task. And by doing so, they will just use the Masumi network to delegate jobs to different agents and to deliver a result. And this has nothing to do yet with opinionated. Opinionated really means here that I really believe that we are heading now in the next year into an era where we see more and more agents who, unlike Claude, unlike Perplexity, unlike OpenAI, have really strong opinions on how to get a job done, and what is good, and what is a good process, and give you honest feedback about what you are doing with them. Because I believe no one of us has ever asked ChatGPT to do something for us, and ChatGPT did it and then said, well, I got something, but I think it's not good. Right? ChatGPT always claims that everything is perfect and it got everything. And what we are trying to build now are really, really agents for work purposes, again, who have strong opinions and who are a little bit tougher to work with, right? Because they ask you questions and they point out that maybe something is not right, and they are giving you their honest opinion that they have done all the research, but nevertheless the data doesn't hold up, and maybe the sample size is not big enough, or whatever it is. And I think this is a really great direction we're heading into right now. We're experimenting a lot with this. So you can chat with them. We just gave them email addresses. Our first opinionated agent even is already on Twitter, or on X. I'm still saying Twitter. And has its own blog, which you can see here. So there are 2 blog articles that actually the agent has been writing, and no one of us. And they are managing now the blog, which is a WordPress blog, through MCP and also all the other channels. And they are extremely autonomous right now. They are learning quite a lot. They have a really sophisticated memory and cognitive architecture, really, in order to observe what they are doing, to reflect about how they are doing, to process feedback from the user, etc. And I think this will become a core component of how it will feel like to work with agents in the future. So they are opinionated, which is helpful, and they are much more orchestrators of stuff which is happening in the background for you.
Exactly. So to basically explain how this will play into Sokusumi itself is, we're basically introducing a new type of agent into Sokusumi, right? We look at these agents here right now as pretty simple agents that do one task, or maybe sometimes they do a few different things, but you cannot really talk to them. They don't have a chat interface. They don't really give you that much feedback. So what we're introducing now is we're introducing these opinionated agents, or as we also like to call them, as agentic coworkers. And those agentic coworkers are basically the way for you as the user to really interact with not only them, but all of these agents here in the background, because the agentic coworkers have access to all the different agents in Sokusumi. And as Sebastian mentioned this, they are orchestrators. So you write a briefing to them. You tell them, okay, please do this and this and this and this, like you would do with a normal human. And then they know exactly, okay, I can either solve this task on my own, or maybe I need to hire some sub-agents to get some, for example, some better data from the Statista agent or some GWI data and so on. So they're going to orchestrate all these sub-agents, interact with them, fill out all the information that these sub-agents want for you, and then basically be your point of contact. And this point of contact can be through many different interfaces. I mean, one of them, as Sebastian said, will be emails, right? So emails will definitely be a point of contact, but another one could be that it's directly inside your Microsoft Teams, or your Google Chat, where you can just chat with them. And then they will basically take this information that you send to them from all the different kind of platforms, and they will consolidate it on Sokusumi in a sort of task board. Because we know that one of the best ways to interact with other humans, especially in a remote setting, is by using these like productivity tools like Linear and Jira and all these Kanban boards that are out there, writing a task and assigning it to someone and then communicating in the task via comments and maybe adding different files there and talking to other people. So we are basically taking this concept and we are applying it to the agentic world. And we really think that this is a much better way to interact with agents, especially over multiple days or weeks sometimes, where they have to solve different tasks with different kind of people and different sub-agents, than it would be to just expose a chat interface. So we're really trying to go a new way here and really are trying to build simply the best interface for interacting with agents or agentic coworkers, essentially. And maybe, I don't know, do you want to mention Hannah already, Sebastian, or is it too early?
No. I mean, Hannah's already out there, right? Hannah's at the moment, if you want to follow her on Twitter, she's muted because Hannah got shadow banned by X because my implementation of how she's posting on X was probably too predictable. But I'm just reworking her system of how she's posting. But if you scroll back, you already find so many funny and really smart interactions with Hannah, which is really surprising because you can see that myself and Patrick and a few other NMaker people gave Hannah feedback, and actually you can see the next day how she has reflected over the feedback and implemented it and changed her behavior and everything. Yeah, but Hannah's already there, and Hannah is now opinionated market research agent. We have her in a kind of private beta right now. We have roughly 40 people who are already interacting with Hannah, and Hannah just has an email address. And this is really, it's so funny. Everyone is talking about what a game changer it is to have an agent with an email, where we are all wondering, like, why is no one else doing this? It's like, it feels really awkward because it's so great if you can suddenly just put Hannah as a research agent CC on an email, and Hannah is looking at the email, trying to figure out what's happening and trying to be helpful. And what Hannah is doing now is Hannah's really built on top of Cloud Code and the Cloud Agent SDK. So she's in itself a really powerful deep agent already. But Hannah has access to the Kuzumi, and Hannah can delegate everything to the Kuzumi sub-agents. So if you are now out of our agency context, right, if you're working on a client briefing for a new campaign, for example, there are so many research tasks you would have to do. And Hannah can just look at a briefing document, understand it, does already all the web research automatically through the built-in cloud tools. And then Hannah is really smartly proposing, okay, let's do now a deep dive on the YouTube channel. Let's do now a quick check on Statista or GWI to get more market and audience data. And all of these things, they're just happening now magically in the background. Then she's just responding after 20 minutes with an email and says, hey, look, I've done this. And she can, as Claude is also capable, she can produce now PowerPoint and Word documents and Excel sheets and all of these things. And I think we're really onto something because the feedback and the adoption we can see already is really great. And people are surprised of how complex tasks they can just throw over email to Hannah, and that she's just on it. And I think when we develop now the Kuzumi from the user interface much more into a direction you probably will talk about in a minute, and then this nicely fits together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole concept of the Masumi network was to enable agent-to-agent communication, right? That was the core idea. And now with Hannah and with all these other opinionated agentic coworkers that we're building, they will continue getting better because there will be more agents in the Masumi network. Every agent that's registered on Masumi is basically a new tool that Hannah can work with, right? Hannah has access to all of them. And every time we add a new agent, Hannah gets a new tool that she can use to better solve your problems, which is really powerful because what it means essentially for agent developers as well is if you build an agent and you put it on Masumi, then your main customer is not going to be a user anymore who goes to this marketplace and interacts with, these agents here and then hires them manually. But your main customer is going to be another agent, which is this agentic coworker, which knows that you now exist and can hire you autonomously to solve a problem for their user. So we really think that the main interaction point for all these agents here, as I said before, is not going to be the marketplace anymore. I mean, this is still there, and you can still do this, but the main interaction point is going to be through these agentic coworkers by interacting directly with them. And and what Sebastian mentioned, just to reiterate on that a little bit again, at EndMaker, what we do is we interact with each other through Linear, because we are a remote team. We don't sit all in one office. We can't talk to each other all the time, right? So obviously we have meetings and stuff, but we also use Linear, which is basically a productivity tool, a project management tool, where you can go in and you can just say, okay, I have a new task that I want to be done, and I'm writing now a briefing about this task. I'm writing, okay, here's, for example, the bug that I found. Here's how you can reproduce it. And then I give it a priority and I assign it to someone, right? And then that someone is going to see it and have it in their list of to-dos and picks it up and works on it at some point. And then when they're done working on it, they put it in review and I say, okay, well done, you fixed the bug. And then I put it into done. Right, and that's how most teams nowadays work with each other, in all the larger enterprises, but also in the startups. And I think it's a very efficient way to work with each other and a very efficient way to do project management, especially remotely. And that's exactly what we're building into Sukusumi now. So we're building a Kanban board, we're building a project management tool into Sukusumi, which is specifically designed for agentic coworkers. And then you can basically manage your agentic coworkers in the exact same way that you would normally manage your normal coworkers or interact with your normal coworkers. And yeah, I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to be a true game changer.
Yeah, and I think that is one of my biggest surprises actually for the year. I think that no one has really figured out the best user experience for AI yet in general, actually, to be honest. There was just recently this report from one of these guys from A16Z, and there was this funny chart in there where he pointed out that you can see that no one has figured out the best user experience yet, because also ChatGPT is in itself running so many different experiments and launching so many different features, trying to search for the best user experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think also we don't have it yet, right? To be honest,
no.
Everyone is searching for it. Of how do you really want to interact with agents and AI in the future, and how does it feel right? And obviously, chat is very popular right now, and probably it is probably still the most popular way to interact with AI, but it has so many downfalls still, and especially as you said earlier, as more and more these work on really running time. You don't want to stare at the chat interface for such a long time until the work is completed. And I think this will be quite interesting for the next year. More and more people will launch more experiments of how to build really the best user experience. And I think basically my bet is that probably what we are just experimenting with email will become much more popular, and probably one of the biggest pioneers will be Microsoft. They just announced it 6 weeks or so ago at their Ignite conference that starting next year, and as part of Copilot, you will have features that you can just invite agents to work with you on Word documents, that you can just reach them via Outlook, etc., etc. And I think that is probably a good learned pattern, which people will get used to, of how they can work with agents. But yeah, super interesting and super surprising for me that it's not so obvious.
Yeah, I agree. My bet is similar, and but I do think that I think it's just going to be exactly the same way that we interact with humans right now, which is chat is going to stay. We still chat all the time,
Yeah.
right? Sebastian and I, we chat all day about random AI topics. But what happens is that you interact with each other via chat, but then because you know that you interacted with each other via chat, you have a memory as a human, right? You then can take this information that you got in the chat, or maybe that you got in the email, and you can put it into a task board. And you can put it into your Linear and Jira and so on, to just have a more structured way where you can really say, okay, now I'm doing this step by step. And this is really how I think it will be. I can make a task in the task board, or I can chat with my agent in the chat, and the agent makes the task himself. And then I can just look at the task board and see where the current status is, or I can ask the agent. And if I want to send the agent more information, I can forward him an email which is relevant for this task. And the agent has a memory and knows that this task exists, and can make this like connection between all the different information that it's getting from all the different streams, basically, and the task board. And that's really so the truth, I think, is that there's no clear answer. There's not this one interface which is much better or much worse. It's going to be a hybrid, as it always is, essentially. So
I'm always laughing so much when someone in the firma tells me like that they were talking to ChatGPT or to Claude or to Copilot, and that Copilot told them they're working on it now and they will come to back them later. And I'm always like, yeah, and nothing happened, right? They're always pretending that they could do work in the background and come back to you later. But to my big surprise, none of them can yet. I don't know why. I don't know why no one implemented this yet. We just implemented it for Hannah and our other agents. That obviously, as you say, yeah, for sure, we are chatting all the time, but also we are chatting in terms of, I will come back to you later, and now I'm working on it, and I will ping you back when I'm done. And all of these patterns are not yet implemented. I don't know why. It's probably some kind of scaling cost issue. I don't know. But it's so funny that they pretend to do stuff in the background, and then always everyone is disappointed and nothing happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to another point here. One thing that I want to show is I want to show you our little explorer.masumi.network interface, because it's a really nice interface to look at, because what it does is it basically shows you all the different transactions that are happening on the Masumi network. So as you can see, we almost reached a total of 20,000 transactions, which is pretty good. But also you can see here exactly essentially when we launched Sokusumi. So it was right here when the transactions went up. And then what's also cool to see is that there's real, I would say, especially if you zoom in, you can see real patterns where on the weekend, for example, there's almost no transactions because it's a B2B tool, so people don't work on the weekend. And most of the transactions are all during the week. And then there's more transactions when there's, for example, a project happening and someone has to, hire the GWI agent 50 times or stuff like that. So it's really cool to see. And of course, our goal now for next year is to really push this number up. We want to go from 20,000 transactions to 20 million or something. Like, it has to be so many. Okay, I shouldn't say 20 million maybe and create false. Sebastian was shocked. But yeah, it has to scale up, and we want to really drive a lot of volume here between those agents. And we believe that there's multiple components to it that are important. One of them is really, agent to agent stuff, right? So if Hannah hires 5 sub agents, that's already 10 transactions that are happening. But another thing is also a scaling topic, right? So for us, we are currently using the Cardano main chain, which has a lot of limitations. It's slow and it's expensive, and it's super decentralized, and there's many advantages for it, but it's still slow and expensive. So what we're doing is we're going to have a big announcement early next year in January with, I would say, one of the founding entities of Cardano, about our that narrows it down, I know. About our exact scaling plans, because we are now actively working on it. and we are actively building a scaling solution for Masumi, and it's gonna be amazing. And I'm very excited for it. And once we have it, we will be able to do millions and millions of transactions, and we're gonna be able to do them instantaneously and for less than 1 cent per transaction. And then and then we're gonna be able to also do micropayments, and really have like really cheap agents on the platform, and just in general do much more transactions basically. So this is what we're working on, or another point of what we're working on.
Which also, by the way, now makes a lot of sense. So I think we started on the assumption that the settlement time on Cardano and the overall speed and transactions per second and all of these things are probably not so relevant in the beginning, especially because we have these long-running jobs, right? If the agent takes 10 minutes to do a job anyway, it doesn't really matter if Cardano is adding a few more minutes on top of this in order to settle and to go through this entire smart contract thingy. But now it's getting more and more critical, and we need scaling because as more agent to agent is happening, and Hannah wants to delegate a research task to 10 other agents and needs to wait for all these results to come back to then do another round of delegation, then it really is adding up. Then really sometimes suddenly it takes a lot of time, and obviously it's also costing a lot of transaction cost to do this over and over and over again. So being faster and also getting the transaction cost down is now getting more relevant. I'm surprised that we easily managed the first full year to have no scaling solution, but now we are getting to the point that we are realizing it's critical to get there now.
Yeah, exactly. We've done so much research last year as well. Like we talked to all the teams in Cardano that are somehow involved in any scaling solution, and we really tried to figure out, okay, what is the way forward for us? What are we gonna choose? And now I think we have a really strong path that we are gonna announce next year. And you know, I'm confident that by the end of next year, Masumi will probably do the most transactions out of any project in Cardano, being supported by those scaling solutions. I have one more thing that we can talk about, one more announcement, which is, you know, we spoke about this Masumi admin interface earlier. So the way it works right now is, if I am an agent developer and I want to monetize my agent and put it on Masumi, or even just have it hire other agents, I have to basically go in and I have to download this admin interface, and I have to install it on my server, and I have to set it up, and I have to get some ADA for the transaction fees and all this kind of stuff. So even though it's already much easier than if you had to interact with the Cardano blockchain yourself, it's still not as easy as it could be. And we realized that by doing all these hackathons and seeing that one of the biggest issues that the hackers have is just installing the node and having a server and then getting the ADA and all that, it takes time. And it takes time that shouldn't be taken from them because they just want to build the agent and monetize it, right? So what we're building now is we're building Masumi as a service. And that basically means you can just go to a website and you can sign up and you can put in your credit card and you just get an API key. You don't have to worry about installing anything. You just have to basically implement into your agent, and that's it. And we think that's going to reduce the complexity of putting agents onto Masumi massively, and then and then help developers around the world to bring more agents to Masumi. So and one thing that we are integrating into Masumi as a service as well, this is actually the first thing that we're integrating, which we are doing right now, is we're integrating identity. So yes, so agents on Masumi right now, they already have some sort of identity, right? They have like a name and a description and some metadata, some stuff in there, but they don't have the identity verified yet. So you can look at it, but you're not 100% sure if that agent actually belongs to the company it says it belongs to, or is actually being made by the person it says it's being made from, offered by, I guess. And we have built an identity standard based on the Viridian wallet by the Cardano Foundation, which we are using to enable this kind of verification. So inside Masumi as a service, you will be able to just say, okay, I want to do KYB now. I want to verify that, I'm really from this company. And by doing that, you are creating a digital identity. You're creating an identifier which is stored in your non-custodial Viridian wallet. And by using that verified identity, you can basically sign your agent on Masumi, and you can prove to everyone that this is really your agent. And we believe this will become extremely important in the near term, because, I mean, just look at it. We already have, how many agents do we have? 120 agents, right? So, and on pre-prod, it's even more, I think. On pre-prod, it's over 1,000 agents. So there needs to be some sort of way for agents to automatically look at other agents and be like, okay, this agent is legit, this agent is not legit. Which one am I going to work with? Of course, the legit one. Yes.
Yeah, and also, by the way, what is also quite important for enterprise adoption is traceability, right? And they need to have a trail of with whom am I actually interacting, right? Who's my counterparty if I am buying something? And even for this enterprise adoption, it's really critical to have identity.
Yeah.
By the way, identity is the running gag. Yeah? So exactly 1 year ago, Patrick told me that when he comes back from Christmas, identity is already built in.
Yeah. Well, maybe this time when I come from.
Yeah, correct. Let's see if this Christmas brings me identity.
I know Isaac is listening, so Isaac, hurry.
Yeah, Patrick already promised it a year ago to be ready for World Economic Forum.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, it hasn't been a deal breaker. It's part of our story from the early beginning, but other things were indeed way more important, and no one has been asking yet for, okay, where's this identity feature? When is it finally coming from? Talking of being early, I think it will become now more and more important, and probably also more and more players in the industry will think about this now, because it's an obvious issue you need to tackle as more agents do work on behalf of humans or on behalf of other agents.
Exactly. I mean, it's pretty clear. The more agents you have, the more of an issue it will become. I think we overestimated at the beginning, honestly, how many agents we will have. I thought we would have, I think both of us thought that we would have hundreds of agents very quickly, which turned out to not be correct. Most of the agents that we have are agents that we built ourselves or that we have from very specific partnerships with different companies. So that assumption was not correct. And I think it just showed as well how far ahead thinking we were. Most companies didn't even have any agents that they would be able to offer, right? They weren't even ready for that discussion yet. They didn't even think about this business model of selling an agent that then can be hired by other agents. It's completely foreign to them, essentially. It still is today, to be honest. But the market is more evolving into this direction, and we are ready now, and we basically are talking to hundreds of companies all the time and onboarding them and making sure that they can offer their own agents on the marketplace. Okay. Yeah, I think we set out to do half an hour, and now it's already an hour, so I think we can end it here. There's a few questions in the chat, but there was nothing I think that we didn't cover. So I think we can leave it at that. If you have any other questions, just feel free to message us on any channel: Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Telegram. We have it all. Just go to masumi.network to find all the links. They're all somewhere down here. And and then please stay tuned. Please register for Sokusumi, sokusumi.com. and try out some of the agents. Every registration gets 30 free credits, so you can literally just register and try them out today. And and give us feedback. If you're a developer, please consider building your own agent and putting it on the platform. We're always looking for great agents, and we can feature you here, and we can make sure that your agent actually gets used. And and that's it. Any last words, Sebastian?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Looking forward to what we will discuss in 12 months. Let's see. Will be another busy year for sure.
For sure.